we're here today with my friend Angel Kelly, and we're going to talk to her a little bit today about her past life regression that she had about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like when you had your first past life regression? First of all, why did you come and have a regression?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
You know, something tells you deep within you need to follow this trail. And I guess that during the years, it's kind of guided me in this direction. So I just felt like I needed some answers.
Mm-hmm.
I was astonished or taken off, guard when I found out I was more on the spiritual side than on the earthly side.
Mm-hmm.
That was opening and awakening for me.
You. Yeah.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen to you when you pass over.
Yeah.
And though I've never been afraid of what's after, even when I was young, it was like people would say, "Well, you could get killed or you could die from that," and I thought, okay. And your point
it never bothered you ever?
It never bothered me.
That's really unusual because
yeah.
That's probably one of the highest fears that people have, aside from public speaking. Probably death is number 2.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I was like, never bothered me, and I never knew why it didn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
But to do the first past regression and to find out that as a child I always felt like I had an angel, and now to find out that angel was actually part of me was eye-opening.
Yeah.
It was amazing that our energy is so vast that we can actually be in 2 places at one time.
Right. Yeah, for a lot of people that may not be aware, we can split off and have parallel lives more than once or twice. And we're not even going to go into that today, but it's really interesting. So yeah, so we have and can live parallel lives. A lot of times we only bring a certain percentage of our energy here in this life, and we don't always know what that is, but we set up tasks for ourselves to come down here and learn certain things. Based on those tasks and the things that we need to learn is how much energy we bring down. So if somebody sets up a challenge to come down here and have kind of a rough life, maybe they have horrible things happen to them early on, or they have a bad relationship, or they're balancing karma with someone, or something like that, then they know they need a lot more of their energy to come down and face a life like that. Where other people,
just to survive it.
Yeah, just to survive it. Yeah. Where other times we as souls make agreements to come down here and just live a peaceful, easy life. And when we make those kind of agreements for ourselves to come down here and just be easy, we don't need that much energy. So it really is interesting to find out how much energy we do bring down. But let's talk a little bit about your past lives. What were some of the things that you experienced?
Well, it was interesting that I would choose to be an angel. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think you really think of yourself ever as being an angel. And then I was a fairy. Uh-huh. And I was like, if I was going to be a fairy, I'd be a real pretty fairy. But I was a pretty ugly, fat fairy.
A little cherub,
Yeah, I was pretty hefty. And then to be a counselor on the other side kind of blew me away, because I've always, on this side, always kind of helped people. And I didn't realize that until I started on this journey.
Right.
That's why I do what I do, or did what I did when I was growing up. Everything, even though I had challenges in my life, I think everybody has challenges because you have to learn from them. Right. But they always seem to just work themselves out. Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, this is a bump in the road. We need to take care of this. But I always had that feeling it would be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when I look back on my life now, it's like it was easy compared to what a lot of people are going through. I didn't have the struggle.
Right.
Well,
I find it interesting in some of the sessions, people will say they have easy life, but then when we actually get into the higher self, mm-hmm. and the higher self will say her life hasn't been easy. So I find that really funny, because we don't know how our life are. It's just a perception of the way we view it and the way we see things.
Well, when you're in it, it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
if he throws, and I would always get to a point, say, okay, God, I can't take anymore, you know, and it would lighten up.
Yeah.
And so I've always felt like I could talk to, and I guess I was talking to my higher self and didn't even realizing it,
Mm-hmm.
but it always seemed to get better when I did that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I know for me, I learned in church growing up that God will never give you more than you can handle.
And that's what I would say. Okay, so, God, I can't handle anymore.
So, you know? So that helps people get through a lot. And then when you say that, you speak to your higher self, your angels, or God, whoever, you know, because people have different deities that they work with. When you do that, though, they listen. And people don't understand that here unless you're on this awakening journey. Or, you know, if you go to church and you're religious, then you have somewhat of an idea of what that means. But until you really start the awakening portion of it, you don't realize how powerful it is in most cases. I'm not saying in all cases.
Well, it was kind of funny because my mother, growing up, she never took us to church. It was like people would come by and say, hey, we'll send the church bus. And I would always go. And so I went to a tremendous amount of different religions. And it was more of a curiosity of what's the difference.
Right.
But I never got into what they call religion, you know. I just was kind of viewing it from the outside.
Yeah,
you know,
well, you probably set yourself up to do that, you know. Your higher self was guiding you to go to these different religions, knowing that you were going to need that information further on down the road when you got to this point in your life.
Yeah, because my grandfather was a Methodist minister. My brother is the Assembly of God minister. And my father went to school to be a Baptist minister. So it's not like I didn't have it in my life. But my mother really never went to church or anything until we got older. And then she really got into, what I say, into religion, you know. And just watching her and saying, no, this doesn't resonate with me. So we came to an understanding that I respect your beliefs. Let me, you know, have my beliefs, you know. And then we didn't have any problem. But, I mean, spirituality, and I think you have to know a basis of a religion to understand spirituality. Because as you go further into this and you do a QHHT, it opens up things that resonate with you, and you're like, it's an aha moment. I know this, but I didn't know this.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of affirmation and confirmation that you're going down the right path. I just think within probably in the next 20 years, religion's going to change dramatically.
Oh, I see it changing. Well, it's changing now because I've talked to several people in their religious organizations, and they talk about how their numbers are falling. But it's falling because people are waking up to what is truly spirituality.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the religion, it's the spirituality. And I think churches are going to need to change, or they're going to lose their congregation, because I do see people waking up a heck of a lot more now than they have in the past. I mean, the awakening is coming pretty fast. So, and you see it every day when you meet with people. I do this work, and I'm getting phone calls like crazy saying, you know, people saying, you know, I really need to talk to somebody. Nobody really understands where I'm coming from. Yeah. And, you know, I've been going to church my whole life, but I'm just now beginning to question everything. And there are people that are our age, in their 50s and 60s, that are changing their belief system because their higher self or their spirit guides or some...
They're guiding them.
Yeah. They're guiding them to search. And
well, that's kind of the way it happened with me. It's like I've studied numerology, I've studied astrology, and everything has its place, but it's not all one or all the other. It's a combination of everything. And as you accelerate in your learning of the spiritual world, it takes you to different places. And the QHHT was kind of an opening of a door into what I already knew, but didn't really have evidence that it was real. And now I have evidence that what I've always believed is actually true.
Right. So what did you feel when you were in the past life as the angel or the cherub, or what were you feeling? What did it feel like when you were there in that space?
Well, it was kind of, you know, an unusual experience because it's like you're watching a movie and you're just, as you ask questions and I'm answering them, it's just like I would go to the movies and we'd have a conversation about the movie. It was so easy because it was like I was watching this movie and I was describing what I was watching, except I'm in it.
Right, you're a part of it. You could feel all the emotions.
You can feel them, yeah. I could feel the emotions, but I could also feel like I was actually that entity. And it was happening in real time.
But then you were totally aware of your surroundings too, right? It's not like you were totally out. Did you feel like you went out pretty much? Because everybody experiences a little different. So
well, when you go into a movie theater, you're transfixed on the movie and you're into the movie. And that was like me. It was not like things aren't going on around me.
Right.
It was just
Your focus
on the
attention
movie.
is on the movie.
Yeah.
And that's what hypnosis is, though, is because people think that they're going to be asleep or knocked out. And all hypnosis is focused attention on something, whether you're watching TV or in your mind when we're doing the session. It's focused attention on that movie that's going on inside of you.
Yeah,
So,
you know what's going. I mean, if somebody drops something, you're going to hear it and it'll distract you, just like in a movie, it would distract you. But you're so into what you're seeing that is your main focus.
Right. And you just kind of disregard that sound. You know it happened, the sound that you might have heard,
Right,
but you just continue to go through.
You're relating to it just like you would relate to a movie, except in the hypnosis you feel like you're there. That was amazing to me, was that I was there, you know, and that there is no time. There is no dimension. There is no, it's just that you can see. And this, I mean, my time as an angel and my time as a fairy and my time as the counselor could have been happening simultaneously with all my energy, but I was just shown one at a time of the three. So there is no time, which I thought was very interesting.
Right, because we're human and we live in a time bubble here, so that's the way we process everything.
Man's created one thing that doesn't exist, time. You know, and so you're like, you expect there to be time periods. I know the first one I ever did wasn't QHHT, it was just out of curiosity of hypnosis. And you have to have, I found out, a trigger to get you there. Once you're able to go the first time, each time you go it's much easier.
A little bit different, and we're easier. We're going to talk about that here as we go on further, because we've now had a couple of sessions with you and they've been fascinating. But let's just kind of talk about this first one a little bit. I do want to point out your name is Angel, and people tell you that you remind them of an angel.
Right.
So I don't think it's any coincidence that you're named Angel and you appeared to people as being Angel.
Actually, my legal name is not Angel, or my name on my birth certificate is not Angel. My husband called me Angel from the time I was about 24 years old.
Oh wow! So
and
that's where you got Angel.
And I just started using it, and then I had it legally changed.
Oh, that's funny. I had no idea about that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, when I was a little girl, that was my nickname.
Angel.
My dad always called me Angel. So yeah, it's funny and that just came up. That's just ironic. How funny. Anyway, I love it. But people say to you, they feel your energy when you're
Well, a
around
lot of
them.
people said
So,
your mother named you right. You are truly an angel,
Angel.
at least in my life.
yeah.
But when you have numerous people say it over and over again, you go, maybe there's a reason I
Yeah.
did change it. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a reason he did call me that,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Because when other people first started calling me that, he got upset.
Oh, really? Because that was his
yeah.
little pet name. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he got upset.
Okay.
And I said, no, I just really like the
it.
name,
It
and it
resonates.
just resonates with me.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
And then
I
to
love
find
that
out
story.
I was an angel, you
Then
know,
that just
it's,
kind of, yeah, hey, that resonates. I get it
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
All right. So after we visited those past lives, then we were able to connect to your higher self. So what did that feel like when you made that connection with your higher self? I know it's been about a year and a half, almost 2
Well,
years now since we
when
did
the
your
first
one.
time when you said, I'm going to take you to your higher self, it was a little different because it was like there's a person standing in front of me, but it's an energy. It's like a silhouette. It's
Mhm.
not like I'm seeing myself or something. It's just like an energy, you know, standing in front of me. So instead of having the movie like I
Right.
had before of the spiritual lives that I lived, it was more like I'm just having a conversation like I'm having with you.
Mhm.
And you would ask the question, and I would listen to what she had to say and then just repeat it the best way that I could, because sometimes what they say, you kind of have to, I understood it, but I had to find a word to make sure you understood what
Right.
was being given to me. And so it was interesting that it was different, but at the same time it was kind of caught me off guard,
Mhm. Yeah.
because it went from showing me something I was watching as to listening to somebody actually talking to me.
Right. And I know a lot of times, like in my sessions, the higher self of the person that I'm transgressing a lot of times will say, do you understand?
Yeah.
And in your sessions that we've done since this first one, your higher self asks that of me a lot. Do you understand? Because of the vocabulary change, because those are words that you have that I may not have. And I know, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but there was, we really had a hard time, I had a hard time comprehending where we were going with the last session, because you've grown so much. So
Fast.
Yeah.
Really fast. And
Yeah.
it seems like it took me the year and a half to digest my first QHHT.
Yeah.
But now it's like I need more.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm going to discover things about myself, but to help people discover things for themselves.
Right.
And so it's totally different now than it was
Yeah, and
before.
we're gonna talk about where it's transitioned to
Yeah.
in a second. But let's talk about your second session. Well, let's talk first of all about why did it take so long to process the information? What was it that?
There was so much of it.
Yeah.
And it's the little details. The little details and things that you don't think about. Now, my mother passed away, and so since I think I had the session where she was still alive, and she passed away. And when she passed away, I started searching more for answers.
Mhm.
And I did go to a medium, and in that session, she said, we come as a couple. Well, it took me months to realize, oh my God, there's couples in heaven. You know, and then my dad coming forward and saying, your stepdad's here, and he's apologizing and asking for forgiveness. You know, she didn't know anything about me, so I knew that was real.
Right.
You know, but then I was like, well, my dad was a child molester. How in the heck can he be in heaven? You know, so the realities of little things, clues they give you, it takes a while to resonate. It takes, you have to really connect with your higher self to try to weed through all the information that you're given. I mean, it was so overwhelming the first
Yeah.
time that I did it. With the hypnotherapist that I went to before I came to you, it was lives on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But once he was able to trigger me to help me get to the other side, then when I came to you, it was so much easier for me to get there and be open to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have never, I mean, the magnitude of the information that comes through the first time, especially 3 different, spiritual lives that I lived, I daydream a lot. And so when I sit and think about it or daydream, it comes back. It's like a rerun of the movie, and you're like, well, I didn't catch that the first time or the second time. And then by having the backup that you gave me,
yeah, because we videotape and we audio tape it, so you have a record.
That was amazing, because you go back and you go, I didn't remember that. Because when you're in it, the points that are the most vivid are the ones you're going to remember. But there's a lot of little things you forget. So it's wonderful to have the video to go back and preview it. And I must have watched it 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And every time you walk away with something different.
Yeah. Because it is. It's like a dream. You know how a dream fades. As soon as you wake up in the morning, it kind of goes away, and then you're like, I know I dreamt about something, but I don't remember it. And that's kind of what this is like. You forget pieces of it. Like you said, you remember the main pieces, but all the little pieces kind of fade away. But when you can go back and re-look at it and watch it, you pick up so many more things.
You really do, because and I like the way that you said describe yourself, because then it sticks in your mind more when you actually step back and go, okay, well, this is what I'm wearing and this is what I look like, and like the fat fairy. I mean,
I know. I think we both laughed when you said that.
I couldn't believe I was a fat fairy.
It was cute.
But the old man was just so vivid. He almost looked like a monk.
Oh yeah.
By having us look at ourselves and what we're wearing and what we look like, the counselor was like a monk. I mean, he was so old. But to also be male or female, or actually be neither one, because as an angel I was neither one, and as a fairy I felt like I was more male than female, but the counselor I was definitely male.
Right.
So that was kind of makes me understand my life here, because I've been very successful and I tend a woman in a man's world, but I fit very easily into that, that slot.
Yeah.
And most women don't. And so when I found out that I was also male on the spiritual side, it made more sense to me.
Right. I thought it was great. So yeah. And then you also brought a bunch of questions, and I remember one of your questions was you sleep about 10-12 hours a day. So we asked our higher self why that happens. And do you remember what they told you?
Because I live on the other side more than I live on this side.
Yeah.
Even in this reality, I have a tendency when I sleep to live a dual life. So I'm living on the other side when I sleep and living on this side when I'm not. So I tend to sleep a lot. I must have a lot to do on the other side.
You are a busy woman.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Okay, so it took you about a year and a half to process that. And so then we did the second session. So what happened on the second session that we did for you?
I didn't have as many questions on the second one that I had on the first one. My biggest thing was, spiritually, when I leave this physical body, where do I go? And so like I said, it shows you what you need to see, that you wouldn't think of in a million years that's what you would be. And I was basically a channel of energy creating universes. And it really took me back, because I was like, me? Doing that? No, not in a million years. I would have never, if you'd asked me in my lucid state, I would have gone, no, But to see it, and it resonates with you.
Yeah. So, and your higher self, what did your higher self said to you about, because you wanted to know if you're going to come back in this life?
And I'm not.
So, yeah. So what did your higher self tell you?
Well, it just basically said everything that I've done, I don't need to do anymore.
Yeah. It's going to
Because
elevate
I'm
you
more
back.
spiritual. I've evidently learned what I need to learn on this side
Mm-hmm.
in order to help me understand what I need to do on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've learned a lot about astronomy, and I've learned a lot about black holes and universes, and so it resonated with me. It seems like when I'm watching TV, things come on that I need to understand or I need to know. And at the time I go, oh, that's interesting, but later when you took me into that, if I hadn't have stumbled across the shows,
Mm-hmm.
I would have never understood
Yeah, to
what
ask those.
I was actually doing, because I would not have understood the concept of black holes and galaxies and universes and planets, and so I think you're guided to what you need to know to understand when you go into the QHHT. But I felt like, because I now understand the end result, I don't need to go any further for myself. But I came out of it realizing I need to do this for other people
Mm-hmm.
who aren't able to connect to the
connect
other
with higher
side
self, right.
as easily as it, and it just seems much, much easier for me to do now.
Yeah. And so I know after our second session, well, first of all, the higher self said that you're more into the oneness. And we talked before the session, and I was having a really hard time grasping what questions you were asking, because I always make sure I have a really good understanding so I know where to take the
Yeah, I think
the
I asked you
answers, yeah.
several times, do you understand?
Yeah, and so your higher self
yeah.
kept asking me, do you understand, so that was really interesting, but it was a higher concept. But do you remember what they said about your parents? One of your questions was about couples, because you wanted to know about couples and what that, you didn't realize that there are couples in heaven. And your higher self said, on the realm that your parents live in, there are couples.
Right.
But you're moving into the oneness. When you leave this life, you're moving up a level into
the oneness,
that
which was difficult for you to
comprehend.
grasp,
Yes.
was that we're all one and the same. And so...
Well, and I don't think it was the oneness that was hard to understand. I think it was the questioning. Because I understand oneness. We're all very much connected. Everything I do affects you, affects everybody.
Right.
All that we do.
But we're oneness within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of creation. We're part of energy. We're part of understanding of the universal energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tap, depending on where we are on our level here on Earth, how much we tap into that knowledge or that energy. It's more of an energy. I mean, you wonder, where did Einstein get all his concepts from? Well, he was able to tap into a higher level of consciousness than most people are.
Right.
Because he's activating a part of his brain that we don't activate.
Mm-hmm.
And so by me seeing where I'm going with the energy and the connection to that, the last QHHT that we did, it made me understand where these concepts come from when geniuses sit. Because it's like Stephen Hawking, okay, he passed away not long ago. But how did he know about black holes?
Right.
But yet, that's what they showed me that I was creating, was a black hole that starts a galaxy or a universe. And I was like, well, I understand it, but how did he understand it? Because he was tapping in that,
That
universal
energy,
energy of the oneness that we all, it's out there, it's just whether we can tap into it or not.
Right. Yeah.
And the further I get into this, the easier it is for me to tap into it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up, because after your session, then you shared with me that you visualize and see things better. It's like you opened up something inside of you that really, took you to another level too.
Correct.
So even after our first session, I think, you and I have gone to lunch and we, become really good friends, and you've helped me along on my journey in a lot of different ways. And you give me really great ideas and insights on the things. And then your higher self, when we were in there, they said to me that I'd be resistant. And I was like, how am I being resistant? When you're talking, I'm trying to process that in my mind. But then I started thinking about the time when, you told me about the music, the meditations, and I think, well, I haven't done anything with that. So obviously I'm being resistant to some things that information that you give me to help me progress along. So I thought it was interesting. But you also saw us working together doing, and we don't really know what we call it, but doing these sessions with other people in the room where they can tap into their higher self.
Seemed the next step for me. It seemed like I got the answers I was trying to find out of where I'm going, and then all of a sudden it's like something, my higher self basically, they leave you little messages, by the way. Even after the session, during the session, they kind of leave you little messages, and then you have an aha moment later, and you go, that makes a lot of sense. And now I remember they kind of told me that in my session, this is the direction I need to go, or I wouldn't feel drawn to do it.
Right.
So it just kind of, thing falls in place, and you don't understand why.
Yeah.
But you
just
have
an
to,
evolution. You follow it.
It's a blind following. You have to follow the path in which they're guiding you on. Because if you resist, I don't think you'll ever open up to your spirituality.
Well, and you won't progress like you're supposed to. You know what I mean? Go to the next level, because we're all trying to get up there.
Life's a lot easier, believe it or not, once you open yourself up to your spirituality. Once you do that, it just kind of makes sense. Things that happen in your day-to-day life make sense. People you connect with makes more sense. You're more open to somebody saying something, you're more aware. And you're like, oh, I need to do this.
Yeah.
So it's a journey, but the journey unfolds and you're more open to it. And that's what's amazing.
Yeah, I think it is amazing.